Hi, everyone at home watching. This is Women Rocking Hollywood, San Diego Comic-Con at home, the virtual edition. And we are thrilled that you guys are here with us. And we have an incredible panel full of really powerful, talented women in film. And I'm going to briefly introduce them and myself. I am Leslie Combemale. I'm a freelance writer. I created Women Rocking Hollywood, and I also write for the Alliance of Women Film Journalists and the Motion Picture Association and my own site, Cinema Siren. So we have Nisha Ganatra, who has, you know what, you're gonna have to go and check everyone's bio, and you can do that on womenrockinghollywood.com, because I can't tell you all the amazing things these women have done, but I can say that she recently did Late Night, which was a huge critical, and everybody loved it, and then just came out with The High Note, which is, you can see right now on demand. Lauren Wolkstein is a shorts and features director who directed on season 3 of Queen Sugar, and now she's the producing director on the new season of Queen Sugar. Gina Prince-Bythewood, who did Love and Basketball, so everyone on the planet should know who she is, and also Beyond the Lights, which you should see because it's great, and she has just directed The Old Guard, and it's on Netflix, and you really have to see it because it's great. Zetna Fuentes is a director of stage and TV, including One Life to Live, which she get nominated tons of times for awards, iZombie and Jessica Jones, and now she's the executive producer and director on Cursed, which is created by Frank Miller, so all you geeky Comic-Con people can appreciate him and love him, and Tom Wheeler is the writer. So, and then Alison Emilio is the director of ReFrame, and it's an initiative that supports women in film, founded by and led by Women in Film LA and the Sundance Institute. And she's going to talk to you guys, the fans, about what you can do to support women in film and why it's so important that you do. Okay, so we're going to start with Nisha, but first we're going to watch a little something from The High Note.
The band is coming over for the party at 5-ish, and tomorrow we leave at 9:30, wheels up for New York. I was wondering...
Do I have rehearsal tomorrow?
Dan was asking if perhaps you would want to rehearse at his house instead of yours. I said to his assistant that that probably would not...
How many Grammys do I have?
11?
Uh-huh. And how many Grammys does Dan have?
8.
Not 11.
No.
That's 8. That's very fewer than me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot fewer. What is this? That's disgusting. I don't want that. Why'd you bring that?
You asked me to.
What do you want to do next?
I think it's time I record a new album.
I mean, that's one plan.
There hasn't been a new Grace Davis record in a decade, and the fans want one. Hi, Grace Davis!
All we got to do is play it safe and stack some money.
I will decide what I do next.
How is The High Note in keeping with your aesthetic as a director and your intention as an artist?
That is a very big question. How is it? I mean, to me, the thing that attracted me to the High Note script was that it was, 2 female leads. One was of color, which is always good. It also just had 2 women who were really ambitious and dedicated to their careers and not apologetic about it. Someone pointed out to me that like none of them sort of have to stumble or bumble or fumble or be like otherwise klutzy or terrible in one area of their life to make up for how amazing they are in another area of their life. They are just like really together incredible women who are being held back by the system and by ageism and sexism and, all other age-old things that we all deal with. So I think to me it was just inspiring to have a movie about 2 women who are not pitted against each other. Nobody's the villain really other than, the industry itself. and they just have goals that they're trying to achieve, and ultimately kind of find that helping each other is the best way to achieve their goals, rather than, I guess the same with Late Night. I sort of love that this movie was sort of about this myth that there's only room for one woman at the table, and as soon as we get in, we got to close that door behind us because any other woman that comes in is a threat to our position. And Emma and I talked a lot about, like, you know, this being a myth that her generation had to really buy into more than, and what it did to them, you know, and how they sort of had to play by male rules and, you know, get rid of any aspect of their femininity or their femaleness to succeed, and what price that is, you know. So the same in The High Note, we kind of ask those questions about, like, what are women asked to give up in order to succeed, and what kind of price do they ultimately pay for that?
And in working around the subject of invisibility and ageism, misogyny, and so many things that are coming up in that film, you have a lot of collaborations that you worked with behind the scenes with the writer and the production designer, and a lot of work that you did with them to make that, to kind of point to those subjects. Can you talk a little bit about your collaborations?
Yeah, I should also mention that the movie is very funny, which, like,
Yes.
it doesn't sound like that when you talk about those things, but it's really important to me to take those issues and hide them in comedy. Like, to me, the best comedies are taking on a really strong point of view about the world and a really big injustice and shining a light on it. So I think that's, like, the joy of comedy, is it's sort of this Trojan horse to kind of get in and get people thinking about things that they may not otherwise go see a movie about. But yeah, we definitely had a lot of women behind the scenes. It was written by Flora Greason, who's a woman, produced by Ali Lowy. You know, our production designer was Teresa Balzarian. It was Jenny Egan was our costume designer. We had, you know, really, I can't even name all the women. Our sound mixer was Lisa Pinheiro. Our composer was Amy Doherty. Like, just really went out of their way to get the best person for the job, and not make sure it was just the person who had been doing that job a million times that just sort of gets hired without any even consideration because their credits are so long. So, you know, it's something I think even from my first indie film, I just wanted as many women as possible behind the camera, because it felt like there's always this catch-22 where you can't do the job until you've done the job. And I just thought on Chutney Popcorn, like, I'm giving myself this big break. I'm letting myself direct my first feature. So let me just hire all these other women who need their breaks. And what I found was, like, a whole bunch of women who had, you know, been gaffers, but nobody let them DP, or they were electrics, but nobody let them gaff. And then, so we kind of just took everybody with tons of experience and just bumped them all up to the job they really wanted. And looking back now, I think, like, why did I do that on my first film? That was incredibly risky. But now I'm just like, well, then the cool thing is everybody could write that on their resumes, and we could perpetuate work for more women in the industry. So I think it's just something I'm always trying to do.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, well, thank you. And everyone needs to see The High Note. You can actually get it on demand right now. And it is really funny, and it has some amazing performances. And you get to see people like Kelvin Harrison doing music, and Tracee Ellis Ross sings for the first time, you know, live, and it's a wonderful film. You should definitely watch it. Thank you so much, Nisha. Okay, so Lauren, before we talk to you, let's take a look at Queen Sugar.
I'm an American, and my family is an American family. Like all American families, we want the dream. Land, space, love. But we have a secret. Ugliness is also within us. I believe it is our secrets that are killing us.
We're here with Nova Bordelone, discussing her new memoir.
Say, I'm trying, Nova, just to understand why you do something like this. You know what I've been through.
Happy families don't sell books.
I don't care about selling books.
But you do care about the truth. What's black and white on the pages of a book is often very gray in real life. When an author becomes successful, not everyone can come along for the ride.
They're not everyone, they're my family.
I ain't your research, Nova. I'm your baby brother.
This is 300 pages of you telling the world how much you hate me, your only sister.
This will destroy the life that I have worked so hard to build.
I'm Vi. What do you know?
All I know for sure, Ernest wouldn't let Nova out of his sight.
I never meant for things to come to this.
Have you lost your mind?
So you directed an episode of Queen Sugar in the 3rd season, and now you are the producing director. Can you talk a little bit about what that means? What does it mean to be a producing director, and how did you come to it?
Sure. So I was lucky enough, very grateful to get the call from Ava DuVernay to direct an episode of season 3 of Queen Sugar about 2 years ago. And that was an incredible experience. I never would have gotten a chance to direct television probably without the call from Ava. But producing director, the role of a producing director is to make sure that the writer's vision is protected and translated onto the screen, because you have a lot of guest directors that are coming in for every episode that may not be familiar with the show and how the show's run. So the producing director is really there to just make sure that every guest director gets acclimated to the show, that you're mentoring them through the process and really protecting the writer's vision for every episode, tonally making sure that the tone is the same and consistent throughout.
And you directed the first episode, and then you were like 2 days into the second episode and the pandemic shut you down. So that must have given you some time to think about some lessons that you've learned and some of the experiences that you had. What have you learned in the interim that that you think will be helpful as you start production again?
Yeah, we were going really well. Things were moving, production was flowing, things were going really well. We were 3 days into the second episode when we were shut down on March 13th. I think what I've learned through this time away, I'm a new mother. I have a 6-month-old. So I think learning how to shift responsibilities and juggle a lot of things at once has been really helpful, that I'll bring back, because when you're a producing director, you kind of have to juggle 3 different episodes at the same time. You have an episode in prep, you have an episode in post, you have an episode shooting. And so like being around my 6-month-old and having to like shift responsibilities throughout the day has been really helpful. So I'm hoping to bring back that to the set in terms of my adaptability to certain situations.
And what has been your experience in terms of childcare on the set so far as you were able to be there? And because I know Nisha actually, she talked a little bit about babies on the set, and it's really important to make sure that everyone can have their babies and feel like they have childcare and feel like they can get home and see them, and all of that was a high priority. And has been for her and on her sets for a while.
That's really wonderful. Yeah, we, my partner and I moved to New Orleans for the show. So that's been really great. We've, everyone on the cast and crew is fantastic and really supportive. It's a very nurturing environment. So it hasn't been an issue. Everyone's been so lovely. And they're really looking forward to seeing Evelyn when we come back.
Great. So what has working on Queen Sugar, how has it impacted your career so far in terms of other projects since the 3rd to now and beyond?
I owe everything to Queen Sugar. That show really opened up a lot of doors for me in episodic directing. If Ava hadn't have called me for the show, then I don't know if I'd be directing television right now. I think what's so wonderful about the show is that Ava only hires first-time female filmmakers that haven't done television before for every episode, because she really saw that if you could direct features, you could direct television. And there really wasn't this, it was really hard to get women to direct television that hadn't already done it. And so by having Queen Sugar as this great opportunity for women to get into television, it's really opened up so many doors for me. Every show that I've done since then is because of Queen Sugar. So when I got the call to come back to Queen Sugar, I jumped at the opportunity because it's such a nurturing environment. Everyone's so wonderful. It's kind of like going back to a family reunion with everyone there. And I try to bring everything I've learned from working on Queen Sugar to every set that I go on now when I'm directing, because it's just such a wonderful collaboration between the entire cast and crew, and it's everyone respects everyone as on the level of collaborator, and it's just so wonderful to be a part of that experience. So I hope to bring that to every set that I'm on.
And in terms of what you've learned, what do you think is the number one thing you are going to take to every set that you learned on Queen Sugar?
The utmost respect for all my collaborators. I also think having a very inclusive set, working with people, giving people an opportunity and a chance that they otherwise wouldn't have, like what Nisha said, really lifting up all the women on the crew that otherwise wouldn't have that opportunity.
Well, thank you so much. Good luck when you get back to doing it. Gina is next. We're going to talk to Gina now. And but first, we have the Old Guard trailer.
Who are you? You can call me Andy. I lead a group of soldiers. Fighters, like you. With an extremely rare skill set.
What do you mean? Mother?
Let's just say we're very hard to kill. You've got questions, kid. You want answers? I have the new one.
And?
I think she has potential. See, you're already healing faster. You're gonna do great.
So you good guys or bad guys?
Depends on the century.
So we really never die.
Just because we keep living doesn't mean we stop hurting.
Throughout history, we've protected this world, fighting in the shadows. But it's nearly impossible to disappear in the world we live in today. Would you like me to take one for you?
Oh, thank you so much.
Here you go.
Thank you.
These are extraordinary individuals. They are extremely resistant to capture.
They're going to lock us up and weaponize us. But they've never faced an army like ours.
An army of 5. Shit, let's start a band.
If we can unlock their genetic code, the entire world will be begging us for the key.
You shouldn't have done that.
We don't have all the answers. But we do have purpose.
I strongly recommend that we leave right now.
Let's move!
Wait for the signal.
How the hell can you even tell? Oh. I'm gonna keep up on all that.
So Gina, found family is at the center of the story. Can you talk about collaborating as director with writer Greg Rucka on the structure of the story and the strength of the characters, how you would bring it to the screen using your aesthetic?
Yeah, I love Greg so much, and it's rare that the creator of a graphic novel gets the opportunity to do the adaptation of the novel, and he did such a great job. The script, I was sent the script that he had written, and I loved it. And what I love so much is, again, just so enamored with his brain. He just, in all his work, but especially in The Old Guard, he creates female characters in this world that just feel different. And I love the fact that these women were warriors, and it just was. And that is something that I hope that I bring to my work and want to continue to bring to my work, to normalize the fact that women are courageous and badass, and you don't have to have a traumatic experience to that fuel this change in you. We just are. And that's certainly the women I grew up with being an athlete. And again, so to see that on the page, it's interesting, Nisha talking about what connected her to the material. It was the same for me, the fact that it was two female leads, and one was a young Black female, which we never get to see in this genre, until Black Panther. So much of it excited me, and Greg was an incredible collaborator. Again, so much was already there on the page, but he was absolutely open to my ideas and doing a couple things I wanted to do with the characters in the script. But again, I love his brain, and I love what he brings both to the comic book world and also now to the film world.
I don't think that anyone should have to say this again, but women can direct anything. But if anyone needs further proof, you can watch The Old Guard and see the fight sequences in The Old Guard that are spectacular and exciting. And there's some close-up fight scenes, and there's so many different aspects to it. So much is involved. They use all different kinds of weapons. I want you to talk a little bit about filming those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love action films. I see them all the time. And so I hate this narrative that's in Hollywood that we don't love action or have a desire to shoot action. So it was exciting for the opportunity. I love that this film has so many very cool set pieces. And for me, I wanted each one to have a different feel. We're also dealing with the Old Guard who, are many years old. And so at times they fight with archaic weapons, and how can we make it believable that the archaic weapons can defeat modern weaponry? So to be able to weave that narrative through, but also, again, we have two female leads, and I want you to believe it. I want you to know that these women can kick ass. And so it was important in the early conversations I had with both Charlize and Kiki that I don't want to use a bunch of stunt doubles. I want you guys up on screen, because I feel the best action scenes, one, have a story to them, but two, are character driven. And I need to see your faces. I need to see you guys doing the work to be able to tell that story. So it was a great collaboration with them, but also I had an incredible stunt team. Danny Hernandez was a fight coordinator. He's created such great sequences, and the collaboration was great. And I've heard horror stories of women bumping up against their stunt teams. I had a great group of guys that gave me the utmost respect, heard me, and I think it's helpful that I kickboxed for a couple years, so I do know about fighting and what looks good. And it was fun. It's hard as hell. And you realize very early on, like, take after take after take, you have to keep going until you get it right, because you don't want to sit in the editing room and say, damn, I should have taken that punch one more time, because you can't fix it in editing. So, but also having actors that were willing to put that work in.
I love the fact that it's so character driven, even though it is an action film. And it is, I think, what sets it apart and what's going to make people want to watch it over and over and over again. And I'm really curious also about Charlize and Kiki's, their characters, and the fact that you have an older, wise, younger, there's the like salt and pepper. There's so many aspects that could be a cliche that aren't in this film. Can you talk a little bit about how you walked that balance and some of the aspects of the sort of depth of character that was brought into this particular film?
I mean, foremost, when I read it, I knew immediately that despite the fantastical premise that these characters are immortal, or pretty much immortal. I wanted it to have a really grounded, real feel to it. And honestly, that you could believe that these characters could be sitting next to you at a Starbucks and that, you know, they're in the world protecting us. And so wanted to bring that realness to it, and that kind of infected every aspect, from casting, you know, to production design and the way we design the fights. But there's also at the core of it this very cool relationship between a warrior woman who is 6,000 years old and a baby immortal who's just you know, emerged. And so I thought it would be fun to kind of put that veteran rookie conceit on top of that, so to speak, and really build that up, that trope that we've seen so many times, but giving it a new twist, given the reality of who these characters are. And that showed up both also because of the actors, Charlize having done action films before, Kiki, this was her first one. And we were able to build that dynamic certainly in the training, because they started training together for a couple months prior. And so that dynamic was emerging naturally. And so to be able to put it on screen was pretty easy.
And Kiki is another example of, you're always picking these women who become really famous. You have a knack. And so I'm curious about you casting her, and just talk a little bit about Kiki in the role. She's wonderful.
Yeah, Kiki is dope. I'm excited for her. You know, Niall is a Marine, so I needed an actor who we could believe in that role, who had a natural toughness to her. And I was struggling to find that in the auditions. I mean, I saw a lot of really dope actors, but it was that innate toughness that I wasn't quite seeing yet. And it's interesting, Barry Jenkins had invited me to see an early cut of Beale Street, and I saw Kiki in that. And I was like, wow, she's a really good actress, but no way could she play Niall. She's too soft, which is just idiotic as a director. I should know better. Actors act. So she came into audition, and within 5 seconds, I knew that she was Niall. She had it. She has this innate vulnerability that makes you care about her, but she's got that toughness. And it was a exciting audition, because after all that time, I knew I had Niall. And but not only having the chops and having the look, but she had the desire to be great. And that's really what you need when you're stepping into an action film. She had never done this before. It's funny because we all look at those training videos that actors, you know, cut together after they've done an action film, and it looks fun, but it's really not. You know, she was doing 2-a-days for a couple months. It was a lot of work, but again, she wanted to be great, and she put that work in, and I think it shows up on screen.
100%. Her body language is crazy. Yeah. It's completely 100% opposite from Beale Street, and it shows in the way she walks, even through her, you know, from the beginning, from the first scene that you see her in. She's really has embodied a completely different character, and she did an amazing job. Thank you so much. Everyone needs to see this movie. You can watch it right now. You know you have Netflix. You can just click right on there or watch it again, because it helps everyone when you watch things multiple times if it's really great, and this one is. So thank you. All right, Zetna, you both executive produced and directed the pilot and second episode of Cursed, which is based on the illustrated novel and is on Netflix. I understand in becoming part of the project, Frank Miller was quite the cheerleader, and I think you should talk about that, because it'll just make people love him all the more.
So yeah, he really was probably my biggest champion from the very beginning. I got involved with the project through Bill Wheeler, who is actually Tom Wheeler's brother, the writer and creator of Cursed, and created it with Frank Miller. And when I went in for my first meeting, you know, they sent me the script and said, you know, please read it. Are you interested in anything, you know, this King Arthur legend? And I said, oh my God, I love to just be involved in any aspect. You know, I watched Excalibur a million times as a kid with my dad, and so I got this meeting, and I was really excited. And I drove into the garage, and it was really early in the morning, and I thought I was just meeting with Tom. And I look to my left, and I see this man getting into the elevator with a hat on. I'm like, oh, that's Frank. That's Frank Miller, and he's in the meeting. And so I just took a deep breath, and I got into the elevator. I got upstairs, and it was the warmest, loveliest environment. It was Tom and Frank and his producing partner, Selene. And we just had this amazing conversation about, you know, the bigger legend and what they were trying to do with focusing on the Lady of the Lake and how excited they were about that. And we just all hit it off. And Frank was so open, and I would, you know, talk about an idea or something a vision that I had, an early sort of impulse. And he, yes, I love that. And he was really into everything. And then they asked me to pitch to Netflix. And I went in, I think maybe 24 hours later, created a deck. And, you know, again, I went in and I didn't realize when I got into this, you know, go and sit in this big room, Frank came and sat right next to me. He was so excited. Every image I showed, he was just cheering me on. And yeah, it was really an amazing sort of collaboration and conversation from the beginning.
And as executive producer and pilot director, you got to make a lot of choices, aesthetic choices, casting choices. Tell us a little bit about a few of those.
Yeah, you know, directing a pilot has been such a goal of mine for the last few years. And I was really, you know, gunning for it and really wanting that, that creative conversation. I really wanted to be involved in setting the tone and creating a world. And with Cursed, it's absolute world building. You know, this is a fantasy show. We're building it from the ground up. And so all the decisions you have to make, you know, in every possible way, you know, the color palette and the lens choices, and what do you want this to feel like? What's the tone? You know, we wanted this to be grounded, and we wanted it to have heart, but it's action, and it's this, you know, beautiful, at its essence, this beautiful coming of age story of this young woman and her powers and what it means to own them and to grow. And so you have to think about every decision, every choice. You know, what does her home look like? What does her village look like? You know, the color of the Red Paladin's robes, you know, the villain, what red is that? What do you want people to feel like when they see that red? And so as the pilot director, it was amazing because I'm spearheading all of that, and I'm hiring the department heads that are coming to collaborate with me. And in casting, you know, which is a huge component for me, working with actors is my favorite part of the process. And so, you know, I take that so seriously, and I agonize, and, you know, you watch tapes and you have sessions and you go in the room and you meet incredible actors. And, you know, I can so feel what Gina was saying. You know, you think about the qualities that they need to inhabit this role, and they're so layered. And so for me, it's about, you know, really finding the best person for the job, the best person for the job. And in a fantasy world where in a lot of times we don't see a lot of people of color, how exciting that we can do that. You know, we can see ourselves in these roles. We can have an Arthur, we can have anyone, we can really just push for the best actor.
And as it turns out that Arthur is a Black man, a gorgeous Black man, who is also very Australian, yeah?
He's Australian and a huge talent, and won the role. And
the storyline centers on a strong female lead, and it does reframe the mythology. How is the reframing of that mythology in keeping with your intention as an artist and filmmaker?
You know, it's really interesting because for me, I'm sure like all of us, you know, we want to tell great stories. We want to tell excellent stories, and, you know, want the opportunity to tell any story that we feel a connection to or it resonates for us. And so for so long, I think there's been such a dearth of these roles or these stories that we've been craving that we can see ourselves in, you know, as women or women of color. And so for me to have a King Arthur legend that I've known since I'm a kid, that, you know, we all know, but to take the Lady of the Lake and to focus on her, and to just have her be a hero, like, you know, a super, you know, like all the other heroes, and just tell her story. And I thought that was an amazing opportunity, and it goes right in line with the kinds of things I want to do. It was the best of both worlds. It was not a compromise in any way. It was just, no, we're going to tell this amazing young woman's journey.
Well, I think it's going to be very exciting for people to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. And so good luck with it. And I can't wait to see what else you're doing. And as we switch to talking to Alison of ReFrame, I will also mention that you are one of the ReFrame Rise directors, which we'll talk a little bit about with Alison. And before we talk to Alison, we have a short video about your partnership with Hulu, and it talks a little bit about the ReFrame stamp.
Here at Hulu, we are fans of female filmmakers. Yay! And writers, and editors, and boom operators.
That's amazing.
But there just aren't enough of them being hired.
I am here to teach you some hard truths.
Women make up only 31% of key behind-the-scenes roles, like director, producer, or writer.
Enough is enough.
That's why we're working to ensure our Hulu originals get the ReFrame stamp.
Oh! Yes! Yes! Go! Go!
The ReFrame organization measures progress towards gender balance in film and TV.
It's a big deal.
Shows and movies that prove they put women in key production roles or throughout the crew earn the stamp.
The bold decision is often the best.
Because when there's more women working in entertainment, we all get more diverse stories to enjoy.
Beautifully put. And honestly true.
And it's a step towards gender equality. So maybe someday we won't even need the stamp because hiring women equally will become the norm.
This feels so right.
So we need you to watch more TV.
Now that I know, I'm obviously gonna get involved.
Start with these Hulu originals that are ReFrame stamped. And keep watching because Hulu has over 100 shows and movies that are ReFrame stamped. Hulu is proud to be leading the streaming industry when it comes to gender-balanced productions.
You working hard?
Yes. Make your TV time count for women because representation matters.
So Alison, can you give us a quick explanation of what ReFrame does and why the ReFrame stamp is so important?
Well, hi everyone. Hi Comic-Con fans and these wonderful women on this call. I'm so happy to be with all of you. And not only is Zetna one of our ReFrame Rise fellows, but Nisha Ganatra is one of our ReFrame Rise ambassadors. So I'm happy. And from the clip that you just saw from Hulu, where we focused on quite a few TV shows and films that got the ReFrame stamp, I am so pleased to say that everyone on this call has received a ReFrame stamp. Nisha got it for Late Night and also for The High Note. Zetna, I don't know, well, Zetna has in the past, but I'm not sure about Cursed because we haven't measured Cursed yet. And we just learned that The Old Guard, so Gina, your film, Netflix applied for it and got the stamp. So the stamp is very, very important because it has the potential as we go more in a business to consumer, a B2C campaign in 2021 and 2020 now. It has the potential to be like the organic seal or the LEED certification or the gold standard of what does it mean to create content that is fair and equitable and representative of the world we live in, of all of the creative talent, both in front of and behind the camera, that is, gender balance, that is, female filmmaker forward, non-binary forward, women of color forward. And so that's what the stamp and the criteria, as really designed by practitioners of the field, by producers, by directors, et cetera, who came together to figure out how do we count in a 4 out of 8 point set, how this production stacks up. And so as you saw, Hulu is one of our partners. They created for the month of March a microsite called Made by Her, featuring, they went all across their platform and found all the films and TV shows that got the ReFrame stamp, an amazing collection, bundled it, and created this microsite and really pushed to celebrate women in March. Our goal, of course, will be that site or sites like it live on every platform across the whole landscape, entertainment landscape. So the other partner in the ReFrame stamp is IMDb Pro. What they help us do is to count, they gather the data, help us count all of the positions in front of and behind the camera that are female identifying or non-binary, and we apply that criteria and award the stamp. The badge lives on IMDb Pro on our own page, the ReFrame page, and you can also find out when you're sourcing content, because I know all the fans love to look to see what shows to watch. They can go to the little bug where it shows if it got an Emmy or what its Rotten Tomatoes score, or if it got an Oscar, et cetera. And there you will see if the piece of content was awarded the stamp. The other thing that Hulu does for us is in partnership, this leads us to Zetna, is that they have come on board as a 3-year sponsor of the ReFrame Rise program. And ReFrame Rise is one of 3 core initiatives or programs that ReFrame runs. The intention and goal of ReFrame Rise is to, out of quite a few referrals, by submission referrals, we narrowed that huge set of amazing, talented women down to 8 final directors, and Zetna is one of them. And we will support her work and the other 7 directors for 2 years. We extended that because of COVID. We will provide professional development support, a network of 34 sponsors so that each director has 3 to 4 high-level influencers like Paul Feig or Sarah Shepard who runs Disney Plus, or you know, Robert Kessel at Participant. Anyway, we match the directors and we help this more experienced and more you know, directors that have been around for a while and can get hired, no problem, but want to take their goals to the next level. And this could be their own show, their own pilot, their Marvel action movie, whatever their goal is. It's time for us to sort of help level them up, even though they're doing fine. They're very talented, they're doing fine. This is now, what can we do to actually sponsor these women to get to that next level? Because, you know, we have found through research with USC Annenberg and others that when the money comes in, women fall out. So the barriers and challenges to women working in the industry to elevate into that top 100 box office category where we count the feature stamp, or the top 100 most popular TV shows. And I'm not talking sports or news or shiny floor shows. I'm talking about like narrative shows. That's where we want to see more of this content living, so that we bring it from the edges and the fringes into, you know, everyone gets to see it. It lasts, it sustains. And so what we've seen with the ReFrame stamp since launching the feature stamp in 2017, a steady progression from 12 shows in the top 100 of 2017, going to 20 in 2018, to 26 movies in 2019 that earned the ReFrame stamp. And so we see in the top 100 box office that there is a progression for that. So as you just saw in the Delta clip, in January on the stage at CES, Lulu Wang, myself, and Ed Bastian, the CEO, announced the ReFrame channel on Delta Airlines for their fleet of 800 planes, 200 million passengers a day, 50 countries. And so this was a real coup for us. They gave us a big financial support, plus the channel that features content that has received the ReFrame stamp. So audiences, you know, we're hoping that over time, audiences will come to understand what the stamp is, to look for it on content, to support the content and the filmmakers making it that receive the stamp. You can share tweets, you know, like the work, all the work that's on this, you know, from this panel today. Make sure you're following the filmmakers, make sure you're sharing their posts, make sure that you are thanking the content commissioners when they do something right. So whether it's Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or HBO Max or whoever, send them a tweet, shoot them a, you know, herald their good work and thank them for bringing you these shows like Vita, One Day at a Time, Queen Sugar, Insecure, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, you know, everything on this call. You have that power as Comic-Con audiences and as the audience period to do that. And coming out of, like I said, Black Lives Matter and the pandemic, we can't go back to business as usual. We have to, you know, make sure that there is equity baked into, representation baked into the content that is coming out. I would say follow everyone on this call and follow ReFrame on Twitter and Instagram, whatever our social is. Share us, like us. So I think really support the content and share and like ReFrame and everybody else on this call.
Great, thank you so much. And as you heard, please do support not only these female filmmakers who are amazing and all have great new projects that you can put your enthusiasm behind, both in social media and just to watch those shows and movies. And then also just to support women in film in general. And thank you all so much for being part of this panel. Thank you guys who are not at San Diego Comic-Con this year, but we will see you at San Diego Comic-Con next year. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.